Imagine this. You're walking through ancient Athens, sunlight bouncing off white stone, philosophers arguing in the streets, merchants yelling prices, and right underneath all that brilliance, all that so-called democracy, is a hidden engine powering everything. And that engine is thousands and thousands of enslaved foreigners? Yeah. Ancient Greece, the birthplace of freedom, depended almost entirely on people who had none. Let's talk about why. So picture this. It's a normal day in Athens. Citizens are hanging out in the agora, sipping wine, debating politics like it's a sport. But here's the twist. Those same citizens have so much free time because someone else is doing the dirty work. And that someone else is usually a foreign-born slave. And when I say foreign, I mean foreign. Thracians, Scythians, Phrygians, Syrians, people captured in war, kidnapped by pirates, bought from traders, or sometimes even sold into slavery by their own communities. The Greeks weren't usually enslaving other Greeks. They preferred outsiders. Why? Because it kept their little political bubble from exploding. See, democracy in Athens only worked because full citizens could dedicate their lives to debating, voting, military training, and public service. But somebody still had to cook the meals, grow the crops, mine the silver, row the ships, clean the streets, raise the kids, keep the whole system running. And slaves did all of that every single day. Now here's the wild part. We tend to think of ancient slaves as unskilled or treated like tools. But in Greece, many of them had serious talents. You had slaves who were accountants, tutors, doctors, metal workers, even bankers. There's a famous case of a slave named Passion in Athens who literally became one of the richest men in the city. A slave, not a citizen, becoming a financial powerhouse. Imagine being so good at your job that you go from property to millionaire status. So why did the Greeks depend so much on foreign slaves? Well, part of it comes down to numbers. Citizens made up a pretty small slice of the population, and the city needed labor, a lot of labor. They couldn't just force citizens to do the backbreaking jobs. That would have collapsed their political identity. So instead, they built a whole system based on importing people from everywhere else. Outsourced humanity, basically. But there's another reason, and it's dark. Enslaving foreigners helped the Greeks define themselves. If a Greek citizen was free, educated, and part of this elite political club, then a foreigner became the opposite by default. It created a psychological border, an us versus them. And you can hear it in Greek writing. Foreigners were barbaroi, people who didn't speak Greek, people who were considered less civilized. And if you were less civilized, well, the Greeks could justify making you do the things they didn't want to. Now let's step into the mines for a moment. The Laurion silver mines, the money machine behind the Athenian navy. These mines were hell on earth, dark tunnels, toxic dust, collapsing walls, and the people working inside? Almost all foreign slaves. Athens' military dominance. Those legendary triremes cutting across the sea, they were financed by silver dug out by people who would never see daylight again. And here's another layer. Greek households were basically small businesses. A well-off family might own 5, 10, even 20 slaves. And these weren't just laborers. Some were managers. Some were craftsmen who produced goods for sale. Slaves could actually generate profit, which created this weird, messed up economic incentive to keep buying more. But let's not forget the part nobody talks about. Ancient Greece, the center of philosophy, ethics, logic, had some of the most famous thinkers in history, and most of them were completely fine with slavery. Aristotle straight up said that some people were slaves by nature. That's how deep the idea went. Slavery wasn't a side effect of Greek society. It was built into the blueprint. And yet, here's the irony. Greece also produced the earliest conversations about freedom, citizenship, human worth. You can almost feel the contradiction boiling in the background. A society built on the labor of foreigners, praising liberty while denying it to the majority of people living within its borders. So why did they depend on enslaved foreigners? Because their system demanded it. Because their wealth demanded it. Because their identity demanded it. Without slaves, the shining image of Athens, the democracy, the culture, the philosophy, would have collapsed overnight. And here's the twist that always hits me. When you walk through modern Athens today, you see ruins everywhere. Temples, theaters, monuments, but you don't see the mines. You don't see the markets where slaves were sold. You don't see the barracks where foreign families were torn apart. The story of Greek freedom is carved in stone, but the story of the people who made that freedom possible, that part got buried. So next time someone talks about ancient Greece being this perfect cradle of democracy, remember the truth. It was a world where brilliance and brutality lived side by side. A world powered by people whose names never made it into the history books. And yet, without them, there would have been no Athens, no democracy, no golden age. If you enjoyed this dive into the hidden side of history, make sure to subscribe for more stories just like this. Stories of empires, power, and the people who kept those empires running in the shadows.